AITA for quietly canceling my sister's wedding after she called me the family ATM? My name is Marin, I'm 29, and I work as an event logistics coordinator for a mid-sized hotel in Denver. Basically, I'm the person who knows which florist actually answers emails, which caterer hides fees in the fine print, and how many extension cords a room full of fairy lights can safely handle. My family has always treated that like a cute little party trick instead of a real job, except whenever they needed something fixed for free. I don't plan fairy tales. I plan loading docks, linen counts, room flips, vendor arrivals, insurance certificates, payment deadlines, and the parts of weddings nobody puts on Instagram because it involves someone sweating behind a pipe and drape wall trying to find the missing gluten-free meals. This story is mostly about my younger sister Tessa, my parents Linda and Gary, and the wedding they decided I owed her. Tessa was 25, pretty in a way that made people forgive her before she even apologized, and very good at making careless behavior look charming. If she missed a deadline, Mom said she was creative. If she forgot to pay someone back, Dad said she was overwhelmed. If she said something mean, everyone laughed and called her honest. I was the reliable one. I filled out insurance forms, found lost passwords, booked flights for relatives who somehow still printed boarding passes in 2026, and paid temporary bills that never became temporary on anyone else's end. Once, when Tessa's car insurance was about to lapse, I paid 2 months of it because she cried and said she needed her car for work. She paid me back $20 through Venmo with 3 sparkle emojis, then never mentioned it again. I told myself I was being mature. Low drama. The bigger person. The truth was, I hated conflict so much I had started calling silence a personality trait. When Tessa and her fiancé Eli got engaged, my parents hosted a backyard dinner at their house in Lakewood. They had Costco appetizers on the folding table, string lights clipped to the fence, and a cooler full of hard seltzers tucked under the deck. Mom wore a cream blouse like she was the one getting photographed. Dad kept adjusting the Bluetooth speaker even though nobody had asked for music. Eli was decent. Not bold, not especially observant, but decent. He was the kind of guy who always offered to carry chairs but never asked why there were suddenly 20 more chairs than planned. He loved Tessa in that careful, slightly nervous way people love someone who keeps them guessing. Tessa held out her hand every 6 seconds so people could admire the ring. When Aunt Denise asked if they had picked a date, Mom answered before Tessa could. "Next spring," she said, glowing. "This is going to be the event that shows everyone who we are." I remember looking at her over my paper plate of pasta salad and thinking, not who Tessa and Eli are, who we are. That was the first little warning. Later that night, after relatives left and the citronella candles had burned down to wax puddles, Tessa cornered me near the kitchen island. "You know you have to help, right?" she said. "I can help you compare contracts," I said. "I can send you a checklist. I can tell you which questions to ask." She smiled like she had already won. "That's what I mean. I'm not funding the wedding," I added. Her smile held, but her eyes changed. "Nobody said that." I looked past her at Mom, who was rinsing plastic serving trays loudly enough to pretend she wasn't listening. "Good," I said. "I just want to be clear." The next morning I texted Tessa and my mom in the same thread. Me. "I'm happy to give advice and look over vendor contracts, but I can't pay for the wedding or be responsible for any balances." Mom replied with a heart. "Mom, of course, honey. Nobody wants to burden you." Tessa replied 20 minutes later. "Tessa. LOL, relax. I'm getting married, not doing something illegal." I saved the thread not because I expected to need it, but because my job had trained me to put everything in writing. At work, if something wasn't in writing, it was just a wish wearing shoes. 2 weeks later, Mom invited me to coffee. She picked a place with tiny tables, loud espresso machines, and pastries arranged like jewelry. Tessa was already there, tapping on her phone with a French manicure that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Mom had a folder. That was warning number 2. She waited until I had my latte before sliding a spreadsheet across the table. It had columns for venue, catering upgrade, floral package, photography balance, rentals, dress alterations, and something called guest experience enhancements, which sounded like a scam wearing a ribbon. The last column was labeled Marin Contribution. I stared at it for a few seconds, mostly because my brain refused to accept the words in front of me. Why is there a column with my name on it? Mom folded her hands. Because you're good with events. That is not a payment method. Tessa sighed. Mare, don't make it weird. The total at the bottom was just under $18,000. I laughed one time not because it was funny, but because my body needed to make a sound before I lost my composure. No. Mom's expression tightened. You haven't even listened. I looked at the number. That was enough. You don't have kids, Mom said softly. You have a career. You're stable. This is what sisters do. This sister pays rent. Tessa leaned back in her chair. You act like we're asking you to buy us a house. You're asking me for a car. It's not like you're poor. I put both hands around my cup and made myself breathe. I could feel the familiar trap being set. If I got angry, I became dramatic. If I stayed calm, they kept pushing. I can help you cut this budget, I said. You do not need imported flowers in May. You do not need late-night sliders for 110 people. You definitely do not need custom acrylic escort cards. Tessa's mouth dropped open like I had slapped her. That's my vision. Then your vision needs financing that isn't me. Mom's voice went low. I just don't understand why you are making this such a huge issue. I'm not making it an issue. I'm setting a strict boundary. Tessa grabbed the spreadsheet and stuffed it back into the folder. Fine. Be jealous. There it was. The family emergency exit. Any boundary I set was jealousy. Any refusal was bitterness. Any practical concern was me being secretly miserable because Tessa was loved out loud and I was useful in silence. That night, the family group chat lit up while I was folding laundry in my apartment basement, waiting for the one dryer that actually worked. Mom, everyone please give Maren grace. Weddings bring up complicated feelings. Aunt Denise, sending love to both sisters. Cousin Mark, big emotions happen around big milestones. Me, I'm not jealous. I said I can't pay for the wedding. Tessa, nobody asked you to pay for the whole wedding. Don't be dramatic. Aunt Denise, your sister's joy is not your loss, honey. Mom, nobody is attacking you. I stood there in the basement with a basket of damp towels at my feet, staring at my phone while the dryer thumped like a tired heartbeat. I typed 3 different replies and deleted all of them. Finally, I wrote, Me, I won't discuss this in a group chat. My answer is no. Then I muted the thread for 8 hours and carried my laundry upstairs. My apartment was small but mine. 1 bedroom, a tiny balcony full of herbs I kept half alive through stubbornness, and a dining table that doubled as my work-from-home paperwork zone. That night, I ate scrambled eggs for dinner, opened a catering proposal for a hotel conference, and tried not to think about how easily my family had turned my no into a character flaw. For a while, I thought the pressure would fade. Instead, the Venmo request started. Tessa requested $450 with the note, Sister Love 2 Hearts Bridal Hair Trial. Denied. Then $1,200 for Tessa's Dream Florals Cherry Blossom. Denied. Then Mom requested $800 for Family Wedding Support. Denied. Each time I texted separately. Me. I'm not paying wedding expenses. Mom replied once. Mom. You are making this colder than it needs to be. Around the same time, strange emails began showing up at my work address. The first was from a florist I knew professionally. Hi Maren. Just confirming you'll remain the point of contact for the Callaway Mercer wedding. The final floral proposal reflects your industry courtesy adjustment, so please let us know if anything has changed. I read it twice before my coffee even kicked in. Callaway was Eli's last name. Mercer was our family name. I replied carefully. Hi Heather. I think there may be a misunderstanding. I am not the coordinator or point of contact for this wedding. Please use the couple's contact information directly moving forward. Best, Maren. Then came an email from a rental company about upgraded chairs. Then a photographer asking me to confirm the timeline. Then a catering manager I had worked with 2 times, forwarding a revised menu and saying, Since you're attached to the event, we applied the professional courtesy rate. My stomach started to feel like I had swallowed ice. I called my mother from my car during lunch break. Why is my work email on Tessa's wedding vendor files? There was a pause. Not surprise. Calculation. Because you know these people, she said. That's not an answer. It is if you stop acting like a stranger to your own family. Mom, you work in events, Marin. People expect you to be involved. It would be strange if you weren't. I said I would advise. I did not agree to coordinate. Words, she said like I was being petty over grammar. You're making this ugly when everyone else is trying to be happy. Take my work email off everything. I'll talk to Tessa. You need to do more than talk. She exhaled sharply. I have to go. Your father and I are at the grocery store. Then she hung up. That was when I should have pulled every thread. Instead, I did what I always did. I documented the emails, forwarded them to my personal account, and told myself it was probably just my mom overstepping. Annoying. Inappropriate. Fixable. Then came the engagement party. Mom called it an engagement party even though there had already been the backyard dinner. This one was for the broader circle, which meant church friends, neighbors, co-workers, relatives, and anyone Mom wanted to impress. They rented the community room at a clubhouse in their suburb and decorated it with fake eucalyptus, white balloons, and framed photos of Tessa and Eli looking windswept in Rocky Mountain National Park. There were Costco sheet cakes, trays of meatballs, spinach dip, plastic cups of lemonade, and one of those photo backdrop frames that said Future Mr. and Mrs. in gold script. I showed up in a navy dress after work, already tired, carrying a card and a bottle of champagne I couldn't afford but had bought anyway because I was still trying to be decent. Tessa floated around in a white jumpsuit, holding court. She hugged me with one arm. You made it, she said. Of course. She looked me up and down. Cute dress. Very hotel manager. I'm not a hotel manager. You know what I mean. I did. That was the problem. For the first hour, I made polite conversation with relatives who kept squeezing my arm like I had recently survived something tragic. Aunt Denise leaned close near the lemonade table. I hope you and Tessa are in a better place. We're fine, I said. She looks up to you, you know. I almost choked on my drink. Across the room, Eli caught my eye once and gave me a small apologetic smile. He looked uncomfortable but not confused. At the time I thought he knew more than he did. Then Mom tapped a spoon against her plastic cup and called everyone's attention. She gave a speech about love, family, and how weddings reveal the strength of the people around you. Dad said, here, like he was in a movie. Eli thanked everyone for coming. Tessa wiped fake tears from under dry eyes. Then someone, I think one of Eli's friends, joked, So who's the wedding planner? Tessa turned toward me. Oh, Marin, obviously, she said. Whether she admits it or not. A few people laughed. I smiled tightly. I'm just giving advice. Tessa tilted her head. Come on, Mare. Don't act poor now. We all know you're the family wallet with a pulse. The room went quiet for a brief moment. It wasn't long, but I felt every inch of it. Aunt Denise froze with a meatball on a toothpick halfway to her mouth. Eli's smile dropped. Dad looked down into his cup. Then Mom laughed too loudly, that bright panicked laugh people use to throw a rug over a stain. Oh, Tessa, Mom said. You're terrible. Tessa grinned. It was a joke. Unless it hit a nerve. Something in me went very still. In the past, I would have flushed, snapped back, or left and cried in my car. Instead, I looked around the room and saw exactly what was happening. Everyone was waiting to see if I would absorb it for them. If I smiled, the moment disappeared. If I objected, I ruined the party. So I smiled. Not warmly. Just enough. I'm going to step outside, I said. Dad's voice followed me. Don't be dramatic. I walked out through the clubhouse side door into the chilly Denver evening. The mountains were dark shapes against the last blue of the sky. I stood near a row of parked SUVs, breathing in the smell of cut grass and somebody's cigarette smoke from around the corner. My phone rang. The caller ID said Janice. Janice managed sales at a renovated Mountain View event venue outside the city. We had referred business to each other for years. She was calm, precise, and allergic to messy paperwork. I answered because work habits die hard. Hi, Janice. Marin, I'm sorry to call after hours, she said. Do you have a minute? My stomach tightened before I knew why. Sure. I'm reviewing the Callaway-Mercer wedding file. We're missing the second payment. And I wanted to confirm whether you'll still be acting as the event coordinator and backup financial contact. For a second, I only heard the faint thump of music through the clubhouse wall. I'm sorry, I said. What? She paused. You're listed as coordinator. Your work email is on the file, your cell number is here, and there's an authorization form with your initials acknowledging backup contact status. My hand went cold around the phone. Janice, I never signed anything for that wedding. The quiet on her end changed. I was afraid you might say that. What exactly has my name on it? I'd rather not discuss details verbally until I send you the file. But there is an authorized representative form. It has initials. My initials? MR. I let out a humorless breath. That's not even how I initial contracts. At work I use MK for my middle name. I know, she said. That's part of why I called. I looked back through the clubhouse window. Tessa was laughing under the balloon arch. Mom was showing someone photos on her phone. Dad had his arms crossed, looking pleased with the room, like the party itself proved something about us. Can you email me the file? I asked. Yes. And Marin? For what it's worth, I'm not comfortable proceeding under unclear authorization. This creates liability for everyone. Send it, I said. Please. I didn't go back inside right away. I sat in my car, locked the doors, and opened the file when Janice sent it. There it was. My work email. My phone number. My name under professional coordinator. A line that said, industry courtesy discount applied due to coordinator relationship. Another line listed me as backup financial contact in event of couple default. Below that were initials. MR. My first name was Marin. My middle name was Kate. My last name didn't matter here because nobody in my family used it correctly on paperwork anyway. But at work, every contract I touched was initialed MK. I stared at those two wrong letters and felt the last bit of fog lift. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't Mom being pushy or Tessa being entitled. Someone had used my name formally. I drove home without saying goodbye. Mom texted before I reached the highway. Mom, you embarrassed us by leaving. Dad, enough. Call your mother tomorrow. Tessa, seriously? Over a joke? Eli, hey, are you okay? I ignored all of them except Eli. Me, you should ask Tessa what paperwork has my name on it. He didn't reply. The next morning at work, I showed everything to Priya. Priya was 34, our catering operations manager, and the kind of friend who did not let me hide behind, it's complicated. She had seen brides cry over napkin folds, grooms forget their own suit jackets, and mothers of the bride treat banquet captains like emergency crisis workers. She read the venue file at my desk, her face getting flatter with every page. They didn't borrow your sweater, Marin, she said. They borrowed your name. I know. No, I don't think you do. She tapped the page. This is liability. This is your professional reputation. If they default, people call you. If there's a dispute, your name is in the file. If a vendor thinks you vouched for payment, that affects your relationships. I rubbed my eyes. I just keep thinking maybe Dad initialed something because Mom told him I approved it. Priya stared at me. What? You are still trying to make this nicer than it is. That landed harder than I expected. She softened a little. Written communication only. No phone calls with your parents unless Colorado suddenly runs out of email. Ask every vendor for copies of anything with your name. Tell them clearly you are not coordinator, payer, guarantor, or authorized representative. And talk to someone legal. I don't want to sue my family. I didn't say sue. I said protect yourself. So I started. I made a folder on my laptop called Tessa Wedding Documentation. Then I made subfolders because my coping mechanism has always been organization. Venue, florals, photo, rentals, catering, family texts, money. I sent careful emails. For clarity, I am not the coordinator, payer, guarantor, or authorized representative for this event. I did not authorize use of my work email, personal phone number, professional relationships, or name in connection with any contract. Please remove my information from this file and confirm in writing. I sent variations of that to every vendor who had contacted me. The responses came in slowly at first, then all at once. The florist wrote back that the proposal would need to be revised because the discount had been based on my professional involvement. The photographer said they had been told I was managing the timeline and vendor communication. The rental company said they could remove me, but would need the couple to sign a new agreement and provide a new card for incidentals. The caterer forwarded a PDF where my work email had been typed into the coordinator field. No signature there, but enough. Janice called again, and this time I let it go to voicemail. Then I emailed her. Please keep all communication in writing for now. I dispute any authorization associated with my name or initials. I did not sign or initial the representative form. I am requesting immediate removal from the event file. She responded within the hour. Understood. We will freeze the current file pending corrected authorization from the couple. We will not treat you as coordinator or backup financial contact. The couple will need to execute a new agreement under their own names and satisfy outstanding payment requirements before the event can proceed. I read that email 3 times. My heart was pounding, but not with panic exactly. More like my body had realized I had finally stopped lying down in the road. That afternoon, Uncle Rob called. Uncle Rob was my mom's older brother. He lived in Fort Collins, wore flannel even in July, and had always noticed more than he said. When I was a kid, he used to slip me $20 after family gatherings and say, "For gas," even before I could drive. As an adult, he asked real questions and waited for real answers, which made him rare in our family. I answered while sitting in my car outside a sandwich shop, too nauseous to eat the turkey club I had just bought. "Hey kiddo," he said. "Bad time." "No, it's okay. I just wanted to check whether the money helped." I went still. "What money?" There was a pause. "The money for your certification course. And a little emergency cushion. Your mom said you got it." My mouth went dry. "Uncle Rob, I didn't get any money." Another pause, longer this time. "I sent $12,000 in January." I closed my eyes. I had been saving for a professional certification in event management, one that would make me more competitive for senior roles. I had mentioned it to Uncle Rob at Thanksgiving, mostly in passing, while helping him stack chairs in my parents' garage. I told him I was saving slowly because rent, student loans, and life kept eating the edges of my paycheck. He had listened. Apparently, he had listened more closely than anyone else. "My mom never told me," I said. "She said you were too proud to thank me directly. Then later she said you decided to put it toward Tessa's wedding, because you wanted to do something generous." I laughed, but it came out broken. "No. I made the check to Linda because she said you were having trouble with your bank after that security alert thing." That part was real. I had gotten a security alert on my checking account after my debit card was skimmed at a gas station. Mom knew because she had called while I was dealing with the bank. Uncle Rob swore softly. "I'm sending you a photo." A minute later, a picture came through. A check for $12,000. Memo line, "For Marin, Certification and Emergency Fund." I sat there in my car with my sandwich going warm in the passenger seat and cried so quietly I barely made noise. It wasn't just the money. It was the fact that my mother had taken something meant to help me become less dependent, less stretched thin, less available to be used. And she had fed it into Tessa's wedding machine while telling people I had offered. When I stopped crying, I called Priya. She picked up and said, "What happened? I need your lawyer friend's number." Priya didn't ask me to explain right away. She just said, "I'm sending it now." The lawyer was not dramatic. Her name was Monica, and she was an acquaintance of Priya's, not my personal avenging angel. She agreed to a short consultation that evening. I sent her the documents, emails, texts, and the photo of Uncle Rob's check. Her advice was practical. "Don't threaten," Monica said. "Document. Correct the record. Preserve everything. Send written notice disputing authorization. Avoid emotional language. If they used your name to secure financial terms, you want a clean paper trail showing you objected as soon as you discovered it." "What about the check?" "Your uncle should request repayment directly. Depending on how it was represented and deposited, he may have options. But don't make yourself the messenger. That's part of the pattern, right?" I almost smiled. "You picked that up fast." I read family texts for a living sometimes. Patterns introduce themselves. After that call, I did not explode in the group chat. I wanted to. I wanted to send the venue form, the initials, the check photo, and a message that said, "Are you all insane?" Instead, I stayed quiet. Not passive. Quiet. There is a difference. I continued emailing vendors. I asked for confirmation that my name had been removed. I notified my manager at work, briefly and professionally, that my work email had been used without authorization by a family member for a private event and that I was addressing it. My manager, Carmen, looked furious on my behalf. "Do you need us to block vendor emails related to that event?" she asked. "Maybe not yet, but I wanted it documented." "Good," she said. "And Marin, your family does not get to turn our relationships into their coupon drawer." I almost cried again, but this time from relief. By the end of the week, most vendors had either removed me or paused their involvement until Tessa and Eli signed new documents. A few were willing to continue at full price under the couple's names. One required a fresh retainer because the original courtesy rate was void. Once my professional involvement was corrected, the venue was the biggest problem for them. Janice's email was polite but firm. New contract, new authorized contacts, no industry courtesy discount, outstanding balance due immediately to hold the date. I still hadn't confronted my family directly. They mistook my silence for surrender. Mom started sending cheerful planning messages again. "Mom, final family planning dinner Sunday at 5. We need everyone on the same page. Dad, be there. Tessa, bring your laptop. We have invoices to go over." I didn't respond. Then Tessa added, "Tessa, also don't make it awkward. Eli's parents might stop by." I looked at that message for a long time. Then I texted only one thing. "Me, I'll be there." Sunday evening, I drove to my parents' house with a folder on the passenger seat. Not a metaphorical folder. A real one. Printed emails, highlighted PDFs, copies of texts, the photo of Uncle Rob's check, and vendor confirmations. I also had everything saved digitally because paper can be snatched, but cloud storage is petty in a way I respect. The house smelled like baked ziti and garlic bread. Mom always cooked when she wanted leverage. Comfort food made people less likely to accuse you of theft, apparently. There were more people than she had mentioned. Aunt Denise was there. Cousin Mark. Uncle Rob, standing by the fireplace with his arms crossed. Eli sat on the couch, pale and quiet. Eli's parents were not there, which told me something had already shifted. Tessa had printed invoices spread across the dining table. Some were highlighted. My name was written on a sticky note next to a number. $18,406. She had underlined it twice. Mom kissed the air near my cheek. "I'm glad you came with an open heart." "I came with documents." Her smile twitched. Dad heard me from the kitchen doorway. "Don't start." I set my folder on the dining table and took off my coat. "I haven't." Dinner was stiff. Everyone talked around the obvious thing. Aunt Denise asked about work. Cousin Mark complimented the garlic bread 3 times. Tessa kept looking at my empty hands like she expected a checkbook to appear through divine intervention. After the plates were cleared, Mom stood. "Okay," she said, clapping once softly. "We're all adults, so let's stop pretending Marin isn't part of the budget." I felt Uncle Rob look at me. Mom continued. "This wedding is important to the whole family. It's not just a party. It's a statement of love and support. Marin has been struggling with some feelings, and we've all tried to be patient." I folded my hands in my lap. Tessa pushed the highlighted invoices toward me. "The remaining balance is here. You don't have to pay it all today, obviously, but the venue needs confirmation, and the florist is being weird about the discount." "The florist isn't being weird," I said. "The florist was told something false." Tessa blinked. "Excuse me." Dad's voice sharpened. "Watch your tone." I looked at him. "No." The room went quiet. It was such a small word. 1 syllable. I had said it before, but not like that. Not without cushioning it. Mom put a hand to her chest. "Marin." "No," I repeated. "I will not pay, coordinate, guarantee, or rescue this wedding." Tessa scoffed. "You're really going to ruin my wedding over paperwork?" "No," I said. "I'm refusing to rescue a wedding built on paperwork you lied about." Her face flushed. "You are so jealous it's embarrassing." I opened the folder. Dad stepped forward. "Enough." Don't embarrass your mother. What's embarrassing, I said, is using my name because you thought I'd be too trained to keep the peace to object. He stopped. I took out the venue form and placed it on the table. This is the authorized representative form from the venue. It lists me as professional coordinator and backup financial contact. These are initials I didn't write. Mom's mouth tightened. It was just to hold the date. I looked at her. There it was. Not a confession. Not exactly. Just enough. To hold the date, I said. You used my work email, my cell phone, and my professional relationship with Janice. Tessa grabbed the paper. Mom said you were fine with it. Eli turned to her. You told me Marin offered. She basically did, Tessa snapped. I did not, I said. I placed the vendor emails beside the form. This is the florist confirming the discount was based on my industry relationship. This is the photographer saying they were told I was managing the timeline. This is the rental company requiring new authorization because I disputed being listed. This is the caterer removing my work email from the file. Aunt Denise whispered. Oh my. Cousin Mark suddenly became fascinated by his shoes. Mom's voice went soft and wounded. Nobody meant harm. You know how these things snowball. I took out the check photo. This is the check Uncle Rob sent for me. The memo says, for Marin, Certification and Emergency Fund. I never received it. Uncle Rob was told I donated it to the wedding. The room changed. Not loudly. Worse. Quietly. Uncle Rob's jaw tightened. He looked at my mother, not me. Linda, he said. Mom's eyes filled with tears instantly. She was very good at crying before anyone could ask a follow-up question. I was going to tell her, she said. When? Uncle Rob asked. When things calmed down. You cashed it in January. Dad cut in. This is family money. Families help each other. Uncle Rob's voice dropped. It was not family money. It was Marin's money. Mom turned on me. I cannot believe you're doing this in front of everyone. You staged this dinner in front of everyone to pressure me into paying $18,000, I said. I brought receipts. Tessa shoved back her chair. You're acting like a victim because people expect you to be useful. Eli stared at her. The words landed badly even for Tessa. She seemed to realize it a second too late. I didn't mean it that way. Yes, you did, I said. That's the first honest thing anyone has said tonight. My phone buzzed on the table. Then Tessa's rang. She looked at the screen and frowned. It's the venue. Nobody moved. Answer it, I said. She put it on speaker either out of panic or arrogance. Maybe both. Hello, she said. Janice's voice came through, calm and professional. Hi, Tessa. This is Janice from Ridgeview Hall. I'm following up on the notice we sent Friday. We're unable to proceed under the current paperwork. To keep the date, we need a new contract executed under your and Eli's names, removal of the disputed authorized representative, and the outstanding balance by close of business tomorrow. Tessa's eyes went huge. What balance? Janice paused. The revised balance after removal of the professional courtesy adjustment, an unpaid second installment, is $14,870. That does not include any outside vendor revisions. That's insane, Tessa said. Marin handles that. I looked at her. Tessa held the phone out toward me. Talk to her. I didn't take it. No, I said. That call is for the bride. Janice, to her credit, stayed silent. Tessa's hand shook. Can we just keep the old contract? No, Janice said. Not with disputed authorization. We need clean paperwork and payment from the responsible parties. Mom sat down like her knees had given up. Dad's face had gone a blotchy red. This is ridiculous. We'll come in tomorrow and straighten it out. That's certainly an option, Janice said. But the requirements will remain the same. Eli stood. Tessa, he said quietly, what else did you lie about? She turned on him, horrified. I didn't lie. Marin made everything complicated. You told me she volunteered. She did volunteer advice. You told me she wanted to pay for some things. I said she could. That's not the same. The room was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator hum. Eli looked at my parents. And you knew. Mom wiped her cheek. We were trying to make a beautiful day for you too. He shook his head slowly, like he was seeing a picture come into focus and hated every line of it. I'm going outside to call my parents. Tessa grabbed his sleeve. Eli, don't. He gently removed her hand. I need to think. He walked out the front door. That was the moment the wedding really collapsed. Not because I canceled it with a dramatic laugh. Not because one magical phone call destroyed everything. It collapsed because the structure holding it up had been made of assumptions, pressure, false paperwork, and other people's money. Once my name was removed, the real weight had nowhere to hide. The fallout was not clean. It never is. Tessa screamed after Eli in the driveway. Mom followed, crying and telling him this was all a misunderstanding. Dad stayed inside and told me I had gone too far. Uncle Rob said, Gary, stop. Dad looked at him like he had been betrayed. You're taking her side? I'm taking the side of the person whose name and money got used. Aunt Denise murmured something about needing air and escaped to the kitchen. Cousin Mark pretended to take a phone call and left without his jacket. I packed my folder slowly. Dad pointed at me. You'll regret this. I zipped my coat. Maybe. But I won't pay for it. Then I left. For the next week, my phone behaved like a trapped insect. Mom called 17 times in 2 days. Dad left voicemails that got shorter and angrier. Marin, call your mother. Enough games. You don't do this to family. Tessa sent paragraphs. Tessa, I hope you're happy. You humiliated me. Tessa, Eli thinks we need to postpone because of you. Tessa, my bridesmaids are freaking out because the hair and makeup team wants payment now. Tessa, you could fix this with one email. Tessa, you always wanted me to look bad. I didn't answer. Instead, I sent one final email to my parents and Tessa, copying Uncle Rob because the money involved him. I am no longer available for emergencies created by dishonesty. Do not use my name, work email, phone number, professional relationships, or financial information for any event, account, contract, or payment. I will communicate in writing only regarding money, paperwork, or direct apologies. Any vendor who contacts me will be told the truth. I am not involved. Then I blocked the family group chat for 30 days. Uncle Rob pursued repayment himself. I did not manage that for him, which felt strange at first, like watching someone carry a heavy box and not grabbing the other end. He told me later that Mom tried to claim he had misunderstood the spirit of the gift. He responded by emailing her the check memo and asking for a repayment schedule. He got half back within 2 weeks. I don't know what he said to make that happen, and for once I didn't need to know. He sent that half directly to me. The first thing I did was enroll in the certification course. The second thing I did was put the rest into a savings account and name it "Do not touch this" for other people, because sometimes banking requires emotional clarity. The wedding was officially postponed 10 days after the dinner. Eli didn't make a public announcement. Tessa did, of course. She posted a black and white photo of their hands with the caption, "Taking time to focus on what really matters. Please respect our privacy." Nobody respected anything. The same relatives who had sent me heart emojis now sent careful little messages. Aunt Denise, I had no idea things had gone that far. Cousin Mark, that dinner was wild. Hope you're good. A church friend of Mom's apparently asked her, in front of 3 other women, whether it was true vendors had pulled out because of contract irregularities. Mom stopped going to that brunch group for a month. Tessa's bridesmaids did not rally the way she expected. One of them texted me even though we barely knew each other. Kelsey, hey, I don't want to get involved, but Tessa asked the bridal party if we could each cover $900 to keep vendors. Just wanted to say I'm sorry. That's not okay. I stared at that message for a while, then replied, "Me, you don't owe her emergency money either." She sent back a single thumbs up and, according to Instagram, skipped the next bridal event. Eli called me once about 3 weeks later. I almost didn't answer, but he was not the person who had signed my initials without authorization or taken my funds. "Hey," he said. He sounded tired. "Hey. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I should have asked more questions." "Yeah," I said. "You should have." He let out a breath. "I thought you offered." "That's what they told me." "I know. I don't know what happens now. That's between you and Tessa. Right. He was quiet for a second. For what it's worth, you didn't ruin the wedding. I looked around my apartment, at the stack of course materials on my dining table, and the basil plant on my balcony, making one last brave attempt at life. I know, I said. And I did. That surprised me. Mom eventually sent an apology. Kind of. Mom, I'm sorry you feel hurt by how everything happened. I hope someday you understand I was trying to keep the family together. I did not respond. Dad sent nothing for 2 months, then mailed me a birthday card with only his signature inside. No check. No note. Just Dad in blue pen like he was signing a receipt. Tessa sent one message after Eli moved out of their shared apartment, temporarily. Tessa, you got what you wanted. I deleted it. Not because it didn't hurt. It did. All of it hurt. I had spent years believing that if I just stayed calm enough, useful enough, generous enough, eventually they would notice I was a person and not just the family's emergency fund with a calendar app. But they had noticed. That was the worst part. They knew exactly what I was. They just preferred me quiet. The original wedding weekend arrived in late May. Denver had one of those perfect evenings that feel like the city is trying to apologize for winter. The air was cool, the sky was wide and pink, and the mountains looked close enough to touch. I had expected to feel triumphant, but mostly I felt sad in a clean, honest way. Not the old sick sadness that came from swallowing words. Just grief for the family I had kept trying to earn. Priya took me to dinner at a little place near South Broadway with narrow tables and loud music and fries good enough to interrupt conversation. She raised her glass. To clean paperwork. I laughed for real. That is the most romantic toast anyone has ever given me. To not being the backup financial contact for chaos. I'll drink to that. Halfway through dinner my phone buzzed. I glanced down. Mom. I turned the phone face down. Priya saw and said nothing. That was one of the reasons I loved her. After dinner, I went home and opened my certification portal. My enrollment was confirmed. My first module started Monday. I printed the confirmation because I liked holding proof in my hands. Then I stood on my tiny balcony, next to my struggling herbs, and listened to the city traffic below. For the first time in my life, I let a family crisis happen without volunteering to become the solution. Nothing exploded. No one was destroyed by disappointment. The wedding didn't happen that weekend. My parents were angry. Tessa was furious. Some relatives still thought I should have handled it privately, which was funny because privately had always meant quietly enough that nobody had to stop using me. I didn't get a perfect apology. I didn't get a movie ending where everyone suddenly understood. I got something better and less shiny. I got my name back. I got part of my money back. I got my weekends back. And when my phone buzzed again, I let it buzz until it stopped. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.